All right, cool.
All right, you ready for the full-on podcast?
I am ready, man. That's a nice warm-up.
Awesome. All right, so whenever you're ready, take us in. Do your radio voice.
Bigot! Bigot is my podcast! Bigot! Bigot is my... Bigot! Bigot is my podcast! Bigot! Bigot is my...
Oh, now? All right. How you doing? How's your week? Hey, you know what I didn't ask you? You know what somebody asked me
I didn't answer my first
today.
question.
Yeah, no, I don't really care how you are. What I didn't ask you, that someone asked me today for us to weigh in on, is your thoughts on No Way Home.
That was like 3 months ago.
3 months ago by people watching it, but literally like a month ago based on us recording this.
It's great.
We have not talked about it or even
on the show we haven't.
Right,
I mean,
but
behind the scenes we have.
I have gotten 2 texts and an email asking for us to weigh in on No Way Home on the podcast.
No Way Home was fucking fantastic. In almost every which way possible. Almost.
Oh. What? Oh.
Well, what's you tell them? You tell them that.
So, as a lifelong Spider-Man fan, my grandmother got me my first Spider-Man comic. I have been a fan since I was a child. He is my favorite. Number 1. Batman's my number 2. It's very close. Spider-Man is my favorite. No Way Home was amazing and spectacular. You heard me. I laughed. I teared up and cried. I cheered. I had every emotion during that.
I had so many emotions.
What's your almost?
Almost. There were some things.
Okay. What were your things?
This is the end of the night. I think it's a terrible time to get it because I wasn't even thinking about it.
I know. That's why. Yeah. I want your gut. What do you got?
My gut. Okay. On the overall, yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. Great.
Right.
Fantastic. Great. Especially because now here we are. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Is now Spider-Man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like now he is Spider-Man.
That's what I loved.
He's not Iron Man Jr. He's like a hero. He's your neighborhood Spider-Man. And that's that.
If we look at Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home as a trilogy, as you should, if you turn and look at that as the origin story, all 3 movies are the origin story of this Spider-Man. And at the end of all 3 movies, he is now where we all were first introduced to Spider-Man.
Right.
By himself, in New York City, can't pay his rent, hand-sewn costume, no gadgets, no tech. Everything's up to him.
It's going to be great.
And I think that's awesome. And I think that was a brilliant way to get there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool because the one
small
issue that I had with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in general was, man, I'm just I get 95% of what I think of as Spider-Man, except... Man, he's got this cool-ass tech. He's got Tony Stark. He's got Doctor Strange. He's a member of the Avengers. All this kind of stuff is already there.
It's all too soon.
And
it was all too soon.
Well, he's got a much bigger support system than what I'm used to because for me, Spider-Man has always been alone and trying to deal with it.
But you know what? I feel like this whole support system that has given him the ability to now, in reality, be at zero.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Those
us
lessons.
go, how does he know how to do that now? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, well, because
he has this memory.
his memory
Uh-huh.
is of 5 years prior.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. So, what's your almost?
That was kind of it. That was like a lot of it. You win. Knocked it out of the park there, buddy.
I wasn't trying to win.
Today, we have Jacques LaMore.
Yes.
From Pop Punk and Pizza Podcast.
Yes.
Before we get into it, real quick, our sponsors, drinkwildbills.com, poddex.com, grillyourassoff.com, 10% off when you use the promo code
Bacon.
And then, of course, our new sponsor, our newest sponsor, it's not really new now, but manscaped.com.
Keep the
and
marbles
use
shiny.
the promo code, what?
Bacon Pod.
You can get 20% off.
And free shipping.
Also, maybe I'll be able to find my forehead.
What?
Because this
Your
camera
entire
angle
head
is
is in this camera angle.
This camera angle is awful.
Your entire head is in this camera angle. Leave
Without
a
further
message in
ado-
the comment if you think that this camera angle cuts off too much of our heads.
I think it's awful.
I'm the only one
because-
with any head cut off.
Yeah, you got all sorts of head.
Right,
Well, it's because
because
I'm not sitting up.
You
because I'm
never
not
sit up.
bones.
You lean forward, and I'm a forehead taller than you.
And we're gonna start that episode now.
I think we should start it now.
You've already been cut off.
Clearly not, because you're still talking.
Yeah.
So we got a new sponsor.
Yeah, sweet balls, bro.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm pretty sure you can guess by that conversation that our new sponsor is Manscaped.
Yes, Manscaped, a company that I'm very familiar with.
Me too.
Few years now. I've been using their products, and I tell you what, my marbles have never been shinier.
I actually got their lawnmower 3.0.
Yes,
Which it has skin safe technology, and they've just upgraded to the 4.0. And let me tell you, I love the 3.0, but the 4.0 is just so much better. It's got a light on it. Do I really need a light? Yes, you do.
visual aids.
Yeah,
Visual aids
you
are
absolutely
important
do.
sometimes,
For sure.
Sometimes in those crevices, that upper leg, inner crease.
Yes, agreed.
It's a tough spot. So the Perfect Package 4.0 contains the Lawnmower 4.0.
Yes.
But one of the things that I am a big fan of is the Crop Reviver, as
yes.
they call it. It is they call it the Ball Spray Toner.
Yes. So it's
Those marbles.
what else is in the Perfect package as well is the ball deodorant.
Yes,
It's the crop preserver. It's an anti-chafing. So when you walk a lot, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get the chafing. I should probably lose weight, but instead I use this.
I'm just a fan. I've always been a fan. I was super excited when you told me that we got the email from them saying that we could now offer a discount to our listeners.
Yes.
I thought that was super cool. So
And men and women can use it too.
absolutely, it's not just a man thing.
So if you want, you can get 20% off.
Yeah,
Your
20%
order
is
now.
a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Pretty awesome.
Use the promo code BACONPOD. You get 20% off at manscaped.com. So go ahead to manscaped.com. Save yourself 20%.
Yeah,
Use the promo code
Bacon Pod,
and make your marbles clean
20%
and
off.
shiny.
Check it out, manscaped.com. Highly recommended and used by your boys here at Bacon Is My Podcast. Like I said, keep those marbles shiny.
Whoop, whoop.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Annie Stoic from Jackknife Stiletto, and you are consuming the Bacon Is My Podcast. Back to you, Jimmy and Mike.
Hey.
I was
I love
really
to get
hoping
this guy.
Brilliant.
I was really hoping you'd start like singing "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go," you know.
Oh,
but
ooh.
I thought you were gonna go, "Yo, it's the Green Machine," and
dude.
Who could top the streets without being seen?
yeah, there you go.
I'm with you, bro.
You're gonna Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is your guy.
I'm your guy.
I
here.
love it.
I'm your guy.
My son recently rated my movie collection, and he just, I don't know where or how, if he started watching it at daycare or whatever, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to pick, Ninja Turtles #2, Secret of the Ooze. And he just started watching it over and over and over and over and over again.
Nice.
So it was great.
Kevin Nash.
I love your son,
As Super
first off.
Shredder.
And second off, welcome to Bacon is my podcast.
welcome to
Yeah, sorry.
Today, we have Jacques LaMore from Pop Pumpkin Pizza podcast, and we're talking about Ninja Turtles.
It's the alliteration. It's brilliant.
Pop
but it's
Pumpkin
also,
Pizza.
It's also a tongue twister.
Yeah, I've had several people complain to me about that. When I was launching the podcast 5 years ago, I had one of my best friends do a voiceover for a promo video I was putting together. And, in the script, it obviously says Pop Pumpkin Pizza. And he fucked it up so many times. And he's like, at one point he was yelling at me. He's like, "Why did you name it this?" He was very angry.
Did you keep why did you name it this in a promo somewhere?
I should have. I don't know if I hope I have. I actually hope I should look through my my recordings and
Just
see
the raw
if
files. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should see if I have that somewhere.
Oh man,
because
that
I
would
could
be
totally.
a bumper. That would be a bumper 100% of the time.
But,
yeah, absolutely.
but going back, Secret of the Ooze, definitely the better of the first two movies.
And some people would disagree with you. I think it just depends on everyone's taste,
No, they shouldn't disagree. You know why? Because they're wrong.
Well,
I think we can all agree that the third one is garbage.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Just awful. First two were
Kino.
great.
Yes.
Kino.
Was Kino in the third one?
No. He was just in the second.
Just in the second.
Just the second one. Okay. I know he wasn't in the first one, but I didn't think he was. The third one was just, it was completely different.
But it was like 2nd April with the first Casey.
Was it really?
Yeah. Well, there was only one Casey Jones, but he wasn't in the second movie.
Right.
No.
That part was played by Kino, kind of.
Interesting. I actually still own the third one, but I literally haven't watched it since I bought it, which would have been, I was probably a teenager. And I'm 31, so it's been a while.
I will tell you this, my kids, because I got them into the initial Ninja Turtles movie. Okay. Then they watched Secret of the Ooze, and for months they were grinding me down and like, we need to watch the third one. I was like, we don't really know. Michael Bay made some.
Yeah, let's watch those.
There's later ones that are pretty
third
good.
One.
Well, and
they're not pretty good, but they're better than the third Ninja Turtles movie.
Well,
and then they finally watched it. You could see the eyes. You could see the eye holes.
You could see. Like I said, I've seen it. It's been so long. I'm gonna have to rewatch it though, just to see how bad it really is.
You don't have to. I promise, it's bad.
You should. Out of your movie collection, however extensive it is, what do you have in there that you're most proud of, and what do you have that you're most kind of like when you show somebody it, you have to give them a disclaimer of some kind?
I think probably what I'm most proud of is a lot of the movies I have are actually classic Hollywood movies. Okay. Because at a young age, between age like 8 and 10, I got really hooked on classic Hollywood movies from like starting in the 1930s up to like the 60s, the 1960s.
Okay, right.
And in particular, I was obsessed with Mickey Rooney, who was very famous for portraying the character Andy Hardy, because there was this series of Andy Hardy films. I forget how many that he made. And so he was famous for that. And he was also famous for doing musical movies with Judy Garland. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people put those two together. They're like, oh, Andy, Mickey Rooney. I love all of his movies with Judy Garland. And anyway, so I'm very proud of all the Mickey Rooney movies I have. I remember when I was a very young kid, my goal was actually to collect all of them, which I didn't do. Yeah, it is, because actually Mickey Rooney has been in like, forget it, 300 plus films, and he
Wow, I didn't even know
acted
it was that big.
Wow.
he acted until the day he died, and he was in
Yeah.
his
Oh, yeah.
90s.
He never stopped.
Yeah, he was in his 90s when he died, and he was literally still doing movies up until that point. So, but yeah, I forget how many I actually have. I didn't get anywhere near, but so I'm very proud of that. What I'm not proud of, I'm trying to think of. Well, I guess Ninja Turtles 3.
Well, yeah, but you get the
Gosh, I don't
disclaimer of
know.
like, well, yeah, I was doing the whole set.
Sure, that's true. I don't know. I can't
See,
think
like,
of.
I was in like a really interesting spot. So like I was in that spot where it was like Blu-rays and DVDs are still important, and then all of a sudden it was like, bam, everything's streaming, and it was like, cool, I'm gonna stop buying.
Mhm.
So Kevin Smith for me, he was my big, like one of my big movie director things. I don't have Jersey Girl.
He did Jersey Girl.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
he did.
Who was in Jersey Girl?
Ben Affleck,
Ben Affleck.
and
Or as my old
J-Lo.
drummer calls him, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Did he
And-
play himself in that movie?
He plays himself in every movie. doesn't
Yeah.
Does he? Okay,
More
I
or
couldn't
less.
remember. Yeah.
But yeah, that's one movie that everybody's like, you don't have the full set. Jersey Girl. And I was like, I'm not buying Jersey Girl. They're like, well, then you don't have the whole set. I was like, well, I have the good set.
It was just because you don't like Jersey Girl.
Jersey Girl's pretty bad. Have you watched
okay.
that movie?
I don't think so, and
Don't.
maybe that's why.
Yeah, I never saw it either.
Don't bother.
I kind of
promise.
I kind of vaguely remember, I think, seeing the movie poster or whatever, maybe seeing a trailer for it, but that's about it.
Good enough.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, Jim Z. You think grilling season is over?
Almost, right? Or-
No.
No.
Grilling season is never over because of
Okay.
a new sponsor of ours,
Ooh, what is it?
grillyourassoff.com.
I love the name already.
Yeah. It's a veteran-owned company that sells spices, barbecue sauces, cool swag, even cookbooks.
Oh, you know what? You sent me a link to that. I checked it out. That was awesome. They had some cool recipes right on their site. That was pretty awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's for free. But now that they're a sponsor, they've decided that if you use the promo code BACON, you get 10% off your order.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
ready. I'm definitely ordering some spices. They had a couple that looked really killer.
Yeah, and it's really, there's so many different selections that there's really a spice for everybody. The guys that are like heat heads, and even the people that just want something subtle, delicious, sweet, whatever it is, they've got something for everybody.
Awesome. Did we order any? Did we have any coming?
We've got some coming,
Nice.
and we're going to do some tasting episodes over on the Patreon
awesome. So
with
stick
a little bit
around.
of grill your ass off stuff.
Stick around, everyone, because once we get those in, we're going to taste them, we're going to go through them, and then we're going to let you know what we think, and maybe give you some choices that we would kind of go for.
So once again, head over to grillyourassoff.com, use that promo code BACON, and get 10% off.
Sweet.
Yep. This is Andy from Sucker Punch, and you are consuming Bacon is my podcast.
Do you have a movie that like you've seen more than any other movie? It doesn't even have to be your favorite, but like that you've definitely seen more than everything else.
I'm thinking the movie I've probably seen the most probably is Back to the Future, I think.
Okay.
If I'm
Do I
not
get it?
mistaken.
He's
What's that?
gonna show you something right now. But yes,
Oh.
please go on.
Yeah, Back to the Future probably, I'm thinking. I've probably seen that the most. Or, oh, dude, that's awesome. Is that authentic?
Yeah. Authentic off
Yeah.
Amazon.
Nice.
I was gonna say you've scratched Mike's two of his biggest loves is Ninja Turtles and Back to the Future.
I mean,
All you got to do is hit
no,
Ghostbusters.
If
as
you
a
hit
third.
Ghostbusters, then
I mean, I've definitely
we
seen
fell in love
Ghostbusters.
officially.
I've seen Ghostbusters several times. I mean, the big three
Already,
trilogy,
no.
the big, the three big trilogies for me have always been. Well, I guess now it's more than trilogies, but Star Wars,
Right.
and then Back to the Future and Indiana Jones. Those have always been
awesome.
like the big ones.
You don't like
For
4
me.
or 5?
You talking Star Wars? Or you talking Indiana Jones? Because
Indiana
Indiana Jones
Jones
has 4. Well, I did like the very last one they made. I know they're currently making another one.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people didn't like. I thought, of course, I thought it could have been better. I'm not going to lie, of course, but I still liked it. So, yeah,
I did too. I'm with you. Like if I'm entertained while I'm at the theater, I'm good. I can
Yeah.
later on, I can sit with everybody and be like, this was wrong and this was wrong, and be one of those people that just sucks to be around. But like
Mhm.
while I'm there, yeah, man, if I'm entertained, I'm in.
You know what? You know what I watched recently that I was just kind of like, I probably shouldn't like this, but it was okay. Was Cruella.
That was surprisingly a good movie.
Yeah, the movie itself was very good,
I haven't
and
seen it
like
yet.
it had enough of the like little drops in it that made the rest of it make sense.
Yes.
And you have to stay for the end credit scene.
Oh, it's like a Marvel movie. There's a
Well, it's a mid credit.
up.
It's a mid credit
They
scene.
set
You know,
you up
I
for
did.
101.
Okay, I know. I remember what you're talking about. I did catch that at the theater.
And then I was
remember
like,
that.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
That's
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah. So but yeah, that
We
was
want
that
to
was
get
a
you
pretty good
ready
one.
for 101 Dalmatians.
But at first, you know, because we've been schooling our kids on all the Disney movies and stuff.
Sure.
Right? And then
Yeah.
we're like, oh well, we got to watch Cruella. And then Jen, my wife, was very much like, they probably shouldn't see this movie. Are you sure? Like, I mean, it's not. I mean, it has to do with 101 Dalmatians, and she's like, no, they probably shouldn't see this. I was like, okay.
I mean, it is a little edgy, you know.
It is
obviously.
edgy. It is.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of punk rock.
Yeah, it really is. If you think about it, it is.
The soundtrack. The soundtrack itself is fucking phenomenal.
And just the kind of the vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
What all the cool kids say, vibe, you know.
Right.
Feeling the vibe. I used to host a morning radio show, and my co-host always used that word, and it would just annoy the hell out of me. But anyway, yeah, just the overall feel of the movie, just the attitude was very, very punk rock.
Yeah.
So to jump off of movies and jump more into punk rock, what like, okay, so you grew up and you were in bands.
Yes.
For our listeners, like what do you play? What did you do? What was your what got you into wanting to be a musician and be in a band?
Well, like most of us, we have older siblings. At least that was my case. And so my oldest brother, who is 4 years older than me, he started to get into rock and punk. And I, being the typical little brother, always looking up to the older brothers, specifically my oldest brother, Josh, I would hang around with him and his friends. And I think one of the main reasons I did that is because I was always more mature than the kids in my class. So I was always, he would let me hang out with him and his friends and things like that. And they were listening to, you know, The Offspring. And I think even before my brother started to get into those more punk oriented bands like The Offspring, he was listening to Korn and Ozzy Osbourne and Limp Bizkit. And, you know, because this was the mid to late 90s, early 2000s.
Early 2000s,
you know? So, you know,
The sweet spot, as some like to call
The
it.
new metal. Yeah.
the new, right. You got the new metal movement. And so, so that's how it started for me. And you know, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old when I first got introduced to these bands, you know, Green Day, Offspring, Blink 182, MXPX, Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, those Goldfinger. Those were a lot of the first bands that I got introduced to, and I'm still hooked on to this day. And my brother also was a musician, so he started his own band, and so I got hooked into that and actually started to get into, I think, singing actually before even actually playing, an instrument. So I remember my brother, you remember having one of those big stereos with like the 5-disc CD changer, two speakers, and a lot, not all of them, but some of them used to have like mic inputs on them or something along those lines.
Yeah, like a little,
so you could karaoke,
like an 1/8-inch mic input. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So and there'd be like
or so you could DJ
a headphone jack too, right?
Yeah.
And I remember my oldest brother had a stereo like that. So I remember going into his room and hooking up one of his microphones to that, and then putting on headphones and singing along to songs from Offspring's Americana, and then singing like almost, I think, all of Blink-182's Enema of the State. I think I remember singing. Yeah. I would just sing along, and of course you would try to imitate the vocalist as much as you possibly could.
Yeah. This part has an accent on it. This part doesn't.
Right. You're not, I'm like 9 years old at this time. So, so I remember doing that. And then eventually my brother started teaching me bass. And I think one of the, one of the first songs I learned was like Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit.
It's a good first bass song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then by the time, and I would just always continually hang out with my brother and his older friends, and I would go with my brother to his band shows and things like that, or my mom would bring me, and I'd even videotape his shows with my camera because I was still obsessed with making movies and things like that at that time, and music. So, but anyway, by the time I became a teenager, I guess like 13-ish, I started my own band, and I did that up until I was 25, and it was a ton of different members, but it was the same band.
What was the name of the band?
The Projection was the name of the band.
And you were the singer?
I was the lead vocalist and guitarist, yeah.
Oh, you also play guitar, okay.
Yes, I ended up playing guitar eventually. I mostly self-taught, or I would learn other things from other players, or looking things up on the internet, and so yeah, that's how I got hooked into it. And what's funny is that my oldest brother Josh is far removed from listening to punk rock or pop punk or anything like that, and I'm just still hooked onto it like I was when I was 9 years old. So
you got the bug, man.
I got the bug. Yeah. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's how it started.
That's awesome, and what I love is that so you and your band parted ways and stuff, but you still had this bug for it, like you said, and you turned that into a podcast. And what I found super interesting was that you don't even necessarily you're not really a pop punk DJ. You've also worked in other radio facets, country, and you're in top 40 right now, and you've been for a little while and stuff like that. So how did that affect even like did that ever overlap? Did your love of radio and getting into radio and stuff like that, did that ever overlap with your punk, your pop punk,
like the band and touring and all that?
And did that ever affect that, your writing, any of your style, anything like that?
I I mean, maybe a little bit, not too much. As far as, so when I left, because I'm the one that actually left my band. I'm the one that actually quit, and that's how that ended. I was no longer at age 25. I was no longer wanting to pursue it as a career. I wanted to have something a little more stable, but I still wanted to work in the music industry in some format or in entertainment, music and entertainment. So, and I always had like a slight interest in radio. So that's kind of how I was like, oh, I'll do that, So I went to a 1-year trade school for broadcasting here in Illinois in the Chicago suburbs. And that's when I started podcasting. I started podcasting, I don't know, 2 or 3 months before I actually made it onto the radio, because I started podcasting in order to get experience for the radio. I just wanted experience talking behind a mic.
Yeah, you were an early adopter of the whole podcasting.
I wasn't an early adopter. I mean, it was 2014 is when I started actually podcasting. So at that time, it was known, but not as much.
It was a thing, but
today.
It wasn't like, hey, everybody is stuck in their houses. They like to talk. Let's get an interface and let's go.
Right.
Yeah, it was still like there was a huge community for it, but it was definitely even more of a, oh wow, you're nerdy, like kind of, that was still attached to it. Now it's like it's mainstream,
Yeah.
So I guess that at that point, that was before it became mainstream. So once I got my first on-air gig on a country station, it actually was kind of going back to my roots, because before I was introduced to rock music, my parents loved country. So I actually grew up listening to country from their, country from the 70s and 80s, but also the 90s as well. So, I was born on that, and the country station that I started working for kind of played all of those decades, from current to the stuff that I was born and raised on, which I have a soft spot for. Not so much for current country. I really not attached to that so much, but the stuff I grew up on, there's actually some of it that I love. But I guess I'm trying to answer your question. You're asking like if it had like an influence on
becoming a DJ for a genre or a not even a genre, just like just becoming a DJ.
Yeah,
even top 40, because you can have a lot of stuff in top 40. Did that impact your musical writing in that regard? I haven't written music regularly. It's been very on and off since I left the projection in 2015. And that's a no-no on my part. Shout out to a good friend of mine, Drew Neely, who's actively trying to get me to get back. Right. Yeah, he actually he texted me one day, and he's like, "Okay, give me a title of a song, or give me make up a song title, and then give me 3 chords," I think is what he said, or 4 chords or something like that, or 4 notes, And I'm just like, dude, I don't know. So I did what he said, and then I don't know if it was a week later or sometime later, he shot me a message with what I had sent him. He like wrote the instrumentation of this song, and he's like, okay. Great. He's like, now it's your job to write the lyrics.
Right, and your turn. Tag.
Yeah, and I'm still working on it, and this was so many months ago, and I feel like a jerk that I haven't completed it yet, but I'm determined to do it.
Oh, that's
But
great though.
I don't think. Thank you. I don't know if it really ever. I think it did. It did influence me a little bit, but not so much. To me, that was always since I didn't have my heart and soul in country or in top 40 radio. I don't think it ever had a huge influence on my songwriting or pop punk. I just pop punk was still just always my love and my passion, even when I was doing those other formats, even when I'd have to learn who these artists are and what they're up to and what they're doing. It was still just kind of like, I'm just reporting what this artist is doing because that's what I'm paid to do. Like,
right.
You know, so, don't get me wrong though. Actually, I feel like having a foot in the door of the top 40 world it still does, I guess, since I'm still on a top 40 station. It does kind of help you to just be aware of what's happening in the mainstream, you know, because honestly, I had not listened to top 40 radio until I worked on top 40 radio. So when that day came, like, you know, 7 years ago or whatever, I was like, who's Ariana Grande? Who the fuck is,
right.
You know, who the hell, like, I didn't know. And because obviously, of course,
It
I knew
forces you to stay current a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Of course I knew who Britney Spears was and all
Right.
those, but that was when I was a kid. So of course I knew that, but like, I just never listened. I didn't grow up listening to top 40 radio. I grew up listening to, if I did listen to the radio, I was listening to alternative radio or rock radio. So,
Which exists in like 3 places.
Yeah, alternative radio is not doing very well, and even rock radio is not doing very well right now.
Oh man, where is rock radio? You know, like we even have, we're in New York and we have stations that are like, we're the best of new music. Here's something off of Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park. You know, that's
the problem. That's absolutely everyone is just too. It's kind of a lost format.
Don't go away. We'll be back right after these messages.
All right, so you know we just played the fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw our new sponsor next to us at the fair.
Right.
Right? Any of you that have ever been to festivals, you know one of the coolest spots to go to is that spot that's selling you sodas with the copper mugs.
Oh, they're the best.
Wild Bill's, dude.
Yes. And you don't just have to go to a fair to get their stuff anymore. You can go to drinkwildbills.com and they'll send it right to your house.
They sent that ginormous box to us.
Huge box of stuff, and it made me realize that Wild Bill's isn't just soda.
Yeah, I thought it was at first, but man, the like jerky and
nuts and coffee.
Oh man, snack foods, coffee, everything.
And if you go there now, drinkwildbills.com, use the promo code BACON, of course, and you get 10% off.
Oh, dude, check it out. Stick with us because we're going to be letting you know how that coffee tastes. We're going to be doing some tasting episodes on literally everything in the box.
Yes.
So stick with us. But, dude, you've had it. You've been at fairs. I've bought it. I bought that mug. It's awesome. I love it.
And now, again, we're heading into the winter months. It's going to get a little colder. No more fairs. Just have it delivered right to your door.
Drinkwildbills.com.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say. Once. Check it out. Promo code BACON.
This is Paul Mark from Silverstein, and you've been consuming, vegan or not, Bacon is my podcast.
Now, you know.
How do you stay on top of what's new and what's coming out? How do you discover new bands?
One thing that I started doing in 2020, I think it was like in the spring of 2020, as I started doing these episodes on Pop Punk and Pizza, monthly episodes called, I would just call them 10 songs for April 2020. And then the next month it would just be 10 songs for May 2020, and so on and so forth. And what it would be every month is that episode, you would just hear me play 10 songs that were either sent to me or I had stumbled across. And a lot of times the songs are from up and coming artists. They're most of the time I wasn't picking like, oh yeah, here's the brand new Paramore. Like, it's like, okay, everyone knows about the brand new Paramore.
Right. You don't need me to promote that. That's well promoted.
Yeah. So there were a couple of different reasons I started doing that, and one of them was because I wanted to help out more bands, because I was getting all kinds of submissions, and it was just too many to actually have on the show, But I'm like, what if I did an episode where I just play music the whole time, So there was that reason, but there was also a way to actually kind of force myself to go through my emails, or just when I'm scrolling through social media, make it a point even more so to check out what a new band is putting out. And I feel like that doing those episodes every month has really helped me discover new music, or just kind of be aware of what's going on. It's helped a little bit,
Nice.
So that's one way.
So you were coming out of, like, you finished your band as a decision to move on to a different part of the music industry, which got you into music journalism and then broadcasting and everything, radio to podcasting, things like that. So you were kind of at the tail end of musicians that were that kind of didn't have to do all of that at once. It feels like kind of now, if you're a musician, you also have to be a podcaster, and you also have to be a content creator, and you're a TikTok star, and you're a, musicians always had to be t-shirt designers, bookers, managers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you feel like it's a good thing currently that artists is it helping artists by giving them another resource to come out and be seen by more people by starting a podcast or doing a YouTube channel or something like that? Or do you think that hinders artists and kind of like waters down their ability to be artists and write compelling songs? Because we all kind of grew up with songs kind of changing our lives and helping us to like get through things, and to, music is why we don't jump off bridges in our lives, and like all these things, which are completely valid. I say that in like a tongue-in-cheek way, but it's like, music saved my life. I'm sure yours. I'm sure many of our listeners. Do you think it makes it harder for a songwriter to truly be a songwriter these days because they have to be so many other things? Or do you think it's great because it helps them be seen by more people?
No, it is harder, I think, to be a songwriter in this day and age, just for that reason. Because now that the world has become much smaller because of the technology we have, I feel like a person, and this is in so many different ways in so many different industries, that person is being pulled into so many different directions, and our attention is constantly being begged for. Whether it's from a family member, or whether you're looking on social media and there's an ad screaming at you on Facebook or Instagram, screaming at you to give them attention. There's just this constant, I don't know if you want to call it noise, but there's just all these, especially when it's like everything you just said. You have to be writing content. You have to be designing your merch. You have to be doing all these things, and they're all important. They're all very important, but it's like anything else. And I always say this, it's a balancing act.
Right.
And I always think of, and that's what my therapist would always tell me. She always had this reference of like the whole spinning plates thing. You've got all these plates in front of you. they're all spinning on the plate, and you got to spin each one a little bit, like all at the same time, so none of them like fall. You have to give like each one their right amount of attention. And I do think that adding all these other things in, that a musician or any person who's writing anything of content, because obviously there's a lot of similarities in many different industries to a songwriter that's doing all these things DIY, like if I sit down and I talk to, or when I talk to a lead vocalist and songwriter of a band, him and I can probably find a lot of similarities between what him and I do. We're both doing a billion things at once. And I think it is important to remember that the songs should always be the number one thing, because at the end of the day, that's what you're selling. That's what you want people to check out, right? And you want that to be just like the life-changing or life-saving music that we all grew up with when technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. And with all the distractions we have in the world now, I think that does definitely make it harder. So it's just a constant balancing act. I know I see memes all the time, especially with like the, when we were Young Fest coming out, seeing people share the memes of people will pay, $300 to see this fest, but they won't go support their friend for $15.
Right.
It's like, okay,
that's been going on
hold on
forever though. Yeah.
Right. It has. And it's like, okay, well, hold on a minute. Let's go back to square one. Let's listen to your songs.
Mm-hmm.
How do they compare? How do they, does your song change? Does it move a person like, Chiodos or Mayday Parade or, any of those guys from, the last era of
Glassjaw, like any of them.
Well, any of them go from someone like Glassjaw to someone like The Used or My Chemical Romance. Like, did you write "I'm Not Okay" and make an entire group of people that aren't okay feel okay?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe you didn't, and maybe that's why they're going to go see them, because it takes them back to a certain point. And then maybe there's some nostalgia in there that makes it harder for new bands to kind of do their thing.
There is a lot of nostalgia, and in our world, it's such a big selling point.
Mm-hmm.
And it does make it really hard to come up with something new, that's something different that people will want to attach to. And don't get me wrong, like, I have the same problem in the podcast world, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah.
It's like, because you are trying to come up with something that's unique and something that is engaging, but it's also creative, and it's also like, what's the word I'm looking? Informative, but also fun. I mean, and you're trying to do the same thing with your music a lot of times. You're trying to catch someone's attention. So the song should always be number one, no matter what.
Yeah. No, the question I was asking though, that I do think is important, just from us as podcasters, talking to you, who's been doing it longer than us, so we're, I'm trying to learn from everybody, is where do you kind of like find that line between making something that's honest and interesting to you, and then making something that is consumable? You know what I mean?
I'm constantly trying to figure that out. Constantly, and I'm always trying different things to do that. Obviously, and this is something you'll read on almost any type of content creation or beginner to podcasting or anything. It comes back to talking about things or covering things that you actually care about. Let's say, I'm trying to think of. Let's say, for some odd reason, someone from I don't know, corns management or something,
Mm-hmm.
reaches out to me and they want to be on the podcast to talk about corn. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not the biggest corn fan. I don't know if I should do that. But let's say I think, whoa, that's a big name. We should do that.
Right.
Oh man, can't pass
I'm
up
gonna get a
that
lot of
opportunity.
views for that.
Right. But it's like, but I'm not passionate about it. So it's like, I've always tried to have someone on the podcast that I actually, that I enjoy their work, not just because of their name or because of so and so. I mean, sure, there's been times where I've done favors. I won't say that I've never done that, but I truly always strive to just have people that I'm interested in or love their work and have them, on the podcast. And as far as making things consumable,
Do you even worry about that?
I do worry about that, and I've been worrying about that more. In fact, any listener, and I've already kind of said this, I'm constantly trying new things out, and how I do things or how I release episodes and things like that. So, as starting this new year, I've always usually had I'm releasing one episode a week, or there was a time where I would release 2 episodes a week, or I would do bi-weekly, or, there was always some type of schedule like that. Well, now I've actually gone to a schedule where I'm only releasing an episode when I've got something of quality, when I've got something good to present. So like, I'm no longer doing a weekly schedule or a bi-week or any type of schedule like that. I'm literally just going to release something when it's good, when it's there. I've got a good guest, or when I've just got I'm focusing the whole quality over quantity aspect.
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's and that's kind of I've always, being in the music world, that's something I was always told and pitched to. It's like, sure, you could come up with a 15-track album, but are all those songs going to be good? Shouldn't you just trim the fat, make it a 6-song EP, and call it a day?
That's I get that so much, just because that's, as a musician, that's something that I personally have even wrestled with over the past few years, of like, hey, people don't buy CDs anymore. People don't listen to music the same way anymore. They listen to it in an a la carte world, which is what we kind of like live in. Where it's like, hey, what's the soundtrack to my drive? And what's the soundtrack to my workout? And what's the soundtrack to my cooking? And what's the, and it's all kind of that.
Yeah.
And as a writer, we've always kind of, and I don't know if you came up this same way, but you're always kind of like thinking in terms of like a record. When you're in a band, you're always thinking in terms of a record. You write a song and you're like, okay, this is one of however many this is going to be.
Yes.
Instead of thinking, okay, this is one, let's do this, finish this, see what it is, and then move on to the next thing. And I feel like we've all been kind of forced into that, to where songwriting is now like podcasting, where it's like you have an episode and you do that episode and you plan for that episode and you do your research and you figure it out and you have the guest or the interview, and then you move on after that episode to the next one. Whereas songwriting kind of feels like it's becoming that as well, which it was in the past. Everything old is new again, and it's all cyclical. But it's a weird place to kind of go as a songwriter, to be like, okay, I'm not writing.
I'm worried about this
in
right
terms
now.
of what are the next 4 or next 5 things and how do I fit them together. It's how do I do this and how do I release this and what's the strategy behind it, which then just makes it a whole thing that, like, on one hand is kind of artistic and interesting in its own way, and on the other hand is kind of gross because it's commercial and like it's kind of like,
well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, about balancing all of those things you have to do, because you just said, like, now I got to think of strategy. How do I release this thing? When do I release it? How do I market the song or the EP or whatever it is that you're releasing?
Right.
So
What's my month plan? What's my 2-week plan? What's my
yeah.
It
It's
becomes this
tough.
weird thing. It's
It really
it's
does.
it's strange how everything that we do as like kind of creative people, or artists, or whatever you want to call it, content creators,
Creatives.
whatever the term is at the moment, has to be thought of as if it's no longer part of a larger whole. It's a side dish to this thing that is just you. Like, you're the thing you're selling, and you write songs, or you podcast, or you're a DJ, or you're a parent, or these are all the things, and they're all marketable. And it's such a weird way to kind of like think of things. Do you ever kind of like have that where you're just kind of like, do you ever feel like weird about marketing yourself in that way?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
All the time. And sometimes I'll feel weird about it, but as now I've focused more on the podcast that I create, I no longer see it weird, because it's becoming more of my career. Because as of December, I actually stepped down full time at my radio job, and now I'm part time.
Okay.
And I did that so I could focus more on the two podcasts that I create. So now I am trying to look at things in a different perspective, of like marketing. But it does feel weird, because I'm not like that person who's like, hey, look at me, like, woo woo, like how
Right.
most of the people on the internet are. They're like constantly like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I don't like that. I usually like there to be some story attached to
I
it.
feel like there's a and this is probably going to sound, to some people it's going to sound harsh or mean, but I don't mean it that way. But I feel like when you've got artists, you start to fall into two camps that I see, and it's people that want to make art, and it's people that want to be famous.
Yes.
And occasionally you'll find someone that is really good at both, but that's very rare. And that's a superstar,
Yeah.
that's a
agree.
Beyonce, like
Yes.
that happens so rarely. But you kind of have those two camps that are happening. And I wonder sometimes how many people started as one and found themselves in the other and kind of rolled with it. And kind of how that works. Did you? So you're backing off DJing. Was that a thing that you have wanted to do for a while, or is that a thing that started to happen because the podcasts are doing well, or like what brought that on?
I was not happy working in radio full time. So besides being on the air and hosting different shows for the cluster that I work for, my full-time gig when I wasn't on the air was being their production director, who's in charge of producing all of their commercials, whether I was recording them or I was assigning it to another on-air talent at the station to produce and record the commercial and all that. It's a very stressful job. And I didn't like all of that stress that came with it. I love producing commercials, like that's fun, but there's all the last minute deadlines and all the revisions that sometimes you have to go through with someone. Communication sometimes is not good, to where like the client says that their sale is going on for 2 weeks, but the sales rep at the radio station puts it down wrong in the radio copy, and it says 2 days. And so then I record that copy that says, hey, this sale ends in 2 days, so get on over there. And then, I send it to the client to approve. They're like, no, I said 2 weeks. I didn't say 2 days, so, and I was grateful for the opportunity, but it wasn't what I truly wanted to do. I love podcasting. I love the stories behind them. I love getting to interact with people and meet new people and just talk about things we love. And so I have found that I could do that more with podcasting than I could with radio.
Okay.
Radio, it's very, at least it wasn't like I was working at a talk station. I'm working all the radio stations at the company I work for. They're all music stations. So you're usually not talking for a very long time. Very, very short, snippets here and there. So it just
Right.
it kind of cuts things down. So yeah, that's that. So the stress and just wanting to do something different. The second podcast that I just started last year is all about the hometown area that I live in. So I kind of that is even more of a story format really than Pop Punk and Pizza. It's a completely different animal, but I absolutely love it because I love local history and just hearing people's stories in the area. So.
Yeah, that's the Kankakee
podcast.
The Kankakee podcast. That's right.
Yeah. So Kankakee is the county seat of Kankakee County. So the podcast is about the people and places of Kankakee County, and that's where I live now, and I was born and raised here. So it's a very homey vibe kind of podcast.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations also about
Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
making that
I don't know
move.
if I
Awesome.
I don't know if I answered the question, but I tried.
Yeah,
I tried to.
no.
There are no questions here. There are just
Conversations.
conversation starters.
That's what I love, just having conversations, and I get to talk to I get to meet other podcasters or just other creative people, and I absolutely love it. Getting to meet you guys and talking with Mike and Jimmy from Bacon Is My Podcast. It's like this. It's like it's cool. It's like
that's what we
you
love
just
about
can't beat it.
Man. We're new into the world, and we're just a little over a year in, and it's been that same thing as we just find that it's like so fun and interesting to have conversations. Like
Just
I love
talk
love
to
talking
different people from
Yeah.
different walks of life, and regardless of how wasted they are. I mean, we've had some really wasted guests.
We have.
Oh
And we've been
yes,
some
I
really
have
wasted-
too.
We've also been some really wasted hosts.
We've done that too. We've done that too.
So we're gonna start the process of wrapping this up, but first,
Okay.
what we want to do is
Pay some bills.
pay some bills. Yeah.
Oh, you got to pay bills, man.
You got to pay the
Absolutely.
bills. All right, so we're gonna pay the bills thanks to sponsors of ours.
Yeah.
Poddex. Poddex.com. What they do is they're decks of cards with 50 cards in each, and they kind of help conversation starters.
Yeah, it's a bunch
Icebreakers.
of questions, a bunch of icebreakers, topics, conversation
Yeah.
starters for people that have a little bit of a struggle coming up with stuff to talk about on their
People
own,
that don't have verbal diarrhea like we do.
like we all.
Isn't the creator of Poddex? Doesn't he live in Illinois or Indiana?
He lives in
Isn't
Illinois.
he from?
Yeah.
He's
lives
from
in Illinois.
He's from a band. What band is it? I know that.
He's in a
was just-
band?
I don't know the band.
He
but I've heard
was.
that before,
He was
yeah.
in a band.
Really?
Let me see if I can Google that up because I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
Hell of a historian you are.
Let's see. Travis Brown.
Yep.
He was in. God, I'm trying to remember what band it was. It was actually a well-known band. At least it was to me.
You've played with him before?
I don't think so. Let's see. Google, help me out here.
Not that big then.
Well, while he's googling,
While he's googling,
you can go through the deck.
Split Habit, I think.
split habit. Okay.
I think. Anyway,
Well,
sorry.
so-
Pay your
okay.
bills.
So what I can do is
Yeah.
I can email Travis tomorrow, and
we'll
he'll
find
tell
out.
us.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Because if he is, he's a lot like you and myself.
And we'll be like,
we're
dude.
like, oh yeah, well, podcasting is completely filled up.
How'd you
void.
not tell us? How'd you not tell us about your band?
Yeah. But yeah, again, Podex, it's for aspiring podcasters,
Yes.
and it helps you with icebreakers if you're not great with questions, or if you need an episode topic.
Mm-hmm.
It'll tell you that. So what we like our guests to do, we ask them to pick one of these lovely decks.
Ooh.
Yes. So
I like
run him
that.
through the decks.
So the decks we have are the episode deck, the interview deck, 2. We have the what the heck deck. We have the would you rather deck. And then the 2 newest decks are what the fuck and how dare you, like Mr. Fathead from Rocco's Modern Life.
It's how you have to say it. It's definitely how you have to say it. Jacques,
let's go with one of the new ones.
One of the new,
Okay.
Which one would you like?
How about what the fuck? Let's do
What
that.
the fuck it is.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm so glad he didn't say how dare you, because I don't think he has it in him to go,
I think he has. I think he has.
I don't know. I spent a good chunk of my broadcasting career doing different voices, so
See,
I might be
I
able
don't
to pull
think
that
so,
one
because
out.
he's also a singer and he's not a screaming singer. So like if
I'm not a screamy singer.
yeah, but that's why you don't do it. That's why you don't do it.
So while Mike is shuffling, I'm going to let you guys know that if you go to poddex.com, you can check out not only the decks, you can buy them singly. They have different groups of decks that you can purchase. They also have some cool merch, some cool swag you can check out. They have an app. They have all kinds of information for podcasters as well. They've got videos.
the social medias they have are pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're very good at what they do, and they're very cool. And if you purchase from them, you'll get emails directly from them, and you can ask them questions, and they're super helpful. It's just
Again,
a really
Travis
good
is really good.
Yeah.
Really good dude.
So if you go there, poddex.com, and you decide to make a cart full of things to order, you can use the promo code BACON, and you can get 10% off your entire order. Promo code BACON. Because why? Because bacon makes everything better.
Indeed.
now-
So Jacques, we're gonna fan these decks out.
All right,
And you're
fan
gonna
those
tell
bad
us
boys
when
out.
to stop.
I'm starting my fingy on
Okay,
my left to
watching.
right, your right to left. You let me know when to stop.
stop.
Stop right there. Your question from the what the fuck? Oh, this isn't even a what the fuck question, honestly. This
You
is
don't think so?
No, not at all. Not at all. So, Jacques, if you had to pick a new name for yourself, what would you pick?
It's so funny that I picked that question because I was literally having this conversation with someone the other day. So my name is Jacques to Pop Punk and Pizza listeners, but in another world, in my radio world, and in the Kankakee podcast world, I am known as Jake. That is actually
Much less cool.
Well, so
What's the reason behind that?
so
I
Jake
can't-
is
I
my
can't.
so Jake is my real name. Okay, it's
Okay.
my birth name. Well, Jacob, but most people call me
Way to be a
Jake.
dick,
So anyway, when I started high school, I started taking French class, so I needed a French name. I chose Jacques, and at that time, I also decided, you know what, I'm going to make that my stage name, because my whole life up until that point, there's a billion Jakes, right? Jake has been a top baby name for a long time,
Mhm.
and so growing up, there was always a ton of other Jakes in my class, right? Or just in general, I'd be walking through the hall, or I'd be walking at the county fair or something, and I hear Jake, and I'm looking, and it turns out they weren't even, they're not
Right.
flagging me down, they're flagging another Jake down, right? So I was like, Jacques. I am now Jacques. Well, I started, being Jacques for everything up until 2014. It was time for me to start doing middays on River Country, and my boss was like, "You cannot be Jacques on a country
On a
station."
country station?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not going to work.
Probably a bad idea.
So he's like, "What are we going to call you?" And I said, "Well, my real name's Jake." And he said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do that."
That's perfect. for a country.
So there went my, my stage and radio name, but I kept it for the podcast.
I like
But
it. I like it.
so anyway,
It's more than Jake. Huh?
Oh,
Huh?
I get that one.
Huh?
so I guess
Wow, he's such a dick.
I guess I'm wondering from this question are we considering my name to be Jake, or are we considering my name to be Jacques for this question?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, I thought the way that I created your origin story in my head, I thought that your name was probably Jacques and you changed it to Jake
to be
simpler on the radio.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
because I also came from the Midwest, and I could understand why somebody with the name Jacques, who's going to be a DJ, would be like, you know what, just let's go with Jake. It's kind of like like in Shang-Chi being
Right.
Shang and then changing it to Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of idea. So that's where I put your origin story in my head, which was completely wrong.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know. Gosh. If I could change my name, maybe I would change it to Jacques, maybe to since my program director that hired me on the country station kind of screwed that up for me,
Right.
So maybe maybe that's what I would do to kind of replace. I feel like now it's too late to do that. I can't go on the air and then go on Kankakee podcast and be like, I'm Jacques. I don't know.
Never
People would
too
be
late.
like, I don't know. I feel like people would be like, what? I feel like they would think I'm acting like very prestigious or some shit like that,
Right.
Well,
all of a sudden you're wearing wooden bow ties.
Commercial break.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And before we get into this week, if one episode just isn't enough for you and you need a little bit more Bacon is My Podcast, head on over to patreon.com/Bacon is My Podcast. Over there, you will get access to monthly live streams, discounts on merch, early and commercial-free access to Bacon is My Podcast episodes. Some of them are even extended surprise giveaways, additional shows, including Tasting is My Passion, and, of course, Cooking with Bacon is My Passion. And oh yeah, you get a crap ton of music. That's right, all of Jimmy and Mike's bands, previous, current, whatever it is, you'll get access to that music, demos, and much, much more. Just head on over to patreon.com/Bacon is My Podcast and learn what the hoopla is all about.
Okay. So I'll be like, I'm Mike and I'm Damien. Well, I like the consuming though. That's a good line. No, and we are Felicity, and you are consuming. Bacon is My Podcast.
And you are consuming.
And you are consuming. That's a good adjective. That's a good verb.
All right, you got it? Do you want to practice again, or you got it?
Let's try it. I'm Mike.
And I'm Damien.
And we are Felicity. And you are consuming. Bacon is My Podcast.
So I'm pretty sure from the research I did that Travis Brown was in fact in a band called Split Habit, which I did see at least once.
Okay.
And I was like 10 years old. I was pretty young when I saw them play. I was actually just having this conversation with a friend of mine that was on Pop Punk and Pizza not too long ago. And I think we were talking about Split Habit. And I'm like, so yeah, whatever happened to them? And he's like, oh, well, you know that Pod Deck guy? Yeah, that's Travis from...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'll talk to him about it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
You gotta get in touch with them.
I do.
Because they sponsor the podcast as long as you put a little
thing
in there.
Okay.
And we made a
And
like
they're worth it. They're good.
We made a
We made a
whole
segment
about it because it was like, oh, first, hey, he's willing to sponsor us. Let's make a big deal out of this.
Hell yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm going to have to use that bacon promo for a deck.
Feel free.
Use the bacon promo and then talk to Travis.
Bacon Pod gets you
he'll email you. Just use the Pop Pumpkin Pizza podcast email. So this way he's like, oh.
Get on the Manscaped too. Bacon Pod. 20% off.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Keep those marbles shiny. Keep those marbles shiny.
Look at this guy.
You have to.
Why are you selling this guy all of our stuff?
Hey, man.
Someone's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do the dirty work.
Got a point.
Yeah.
So you spent a long time with us. We appreciate it. We can't wait to come spend a long time with you on your podcast. I just got a couple of quick questions and then we'll start wrapping it up. So just simple ones. One, to our listeners who are not inundated and do not know, can you explain crazy corn and do you have a home recipe for it?
Man, wow, you guys did some digging. Crazy corn. So there's it's not just a popcorn shop. It's actually a candy shop, but they also make popcorn. It's called Sweet Street, and it's in a town called Bourbonnais here in Kankakee County in Illinois. And so they make all of these like, I think it's like 20 some different flavors of popcorn in their place. And so crazy corn, it's caramel popcorn and it's cheddar cheese popcorn. And I think actually, if I remember correctly, they'll actually take some of that cheese they put on the cheddar corn and they'll put it over the caramel corn too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it the crazy corn.
A little sweet and salty.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so fucking good. And it had been a while since I had it. And so I got a free small bag from the radio station the other day. And I'm eating it and I'm talking to my girlfriend who is born and raised on the south side of Chicago. And I'm like, man, I forgot how good this crazy corn is. And she's like, what's crazy corn? And, I explained it to her. And she's like, isn't that just Chicago style popcorn? Right. I know it was a really funny, we both laughed really hard. But anyway, because, that's like the Chicago mix or the Chicago style is you just take cheddar corn and caramel corn and you mix them together in a bag and,
Well, they used to sell those the big tins, right? The big circular tins that had the divider in it.
Yeah,
and it would have a caramel and a cheese and a butter, and then the best would be where you'd get like a little bit of a handful of each, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is exotic."
Yeah, exactly. So that's what crazy corn is.
If you got a handful of anything but the buttered corn,
right?
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah,
absolutely.
Little caramel, little cheese.
I agree. Exotic. I'm wishing I had some more. I ate the whole bag already, so I'm gonna have to go back and get some more. But
nice.
But yeah,
so that's one, and then the other one would be we know you do some crossover stuff with Lou Malnati's,
yes,
which is one of the oldest Illinois, Chicago pizza places. I've had it; it's amazing. It's delicious.
Yes.
I haven't. We'll have it eventually.
Yes, we're going to have it eventually. We'll take a trip to Chicago as well.
Yeah, or maybe I can hook you guys up with one. I'll have one shipped to you, maybe.
Hey, man.
So, excuse me.
What are your other if you had someone coming to visit you? If we were coming in town, where would you bring us? Where would we have to go?
I mean,
whether it's pizza or just food in general.
Oh, okay.
Chicago's a great food town, so Illinois is a great food state. So,
which is why we're one of the fattest cities in the country, to be honest.
It's just because so we're fighting you.
I was going to say it's just because our food is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Lou Malnati's is one of the places that I would take you. The best Chicago chains. Lou Malnati's, Giordano's, Gino's East. Another one of my favorites. It's not really a Chicago chain because the locations are in the suburbs, but it's called Chicago Dough Company. They have 3 locations in south of Chicago. One of them is actually just down the street from me, and it's amazing. Aurelio's is a Chicago chain. That's another one I would suggest. Beggars. There's also, I guess, I'm sure you've heard of Portillo's. That's not pizza.
Yeah. Right.
It's not pizza. It's hot dogs, Italian beef. But that's
Sandwiches.
one of the Yeah, that's one of the best places that you can get Italian beef or a Chicago style hot dog, or they've got Italian sausage there.
I will put Chicago Italian beef sandwiches up against New York sausage and peppers.
Yeah,
head to head. I would. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting to see how that would work out.
What are some venues you dig where near you? Like
I mean, some of my favorite Chicago venues. I love Bottom Lounge. One of my good friends actually is the one of the managers there. Books a majority of the shows there. A Beat Kitchen is great. Subterranean is great. Of course, House of Blues.
Right.
There's Metro. Yeah, those are a majority of the venues that I like. And
those are venues that I went and saw people, and I never got to play. And I played in the ones that nobody went to, like Bottom Line and Stella's.
Okay. I know Bottom Line. I can't remember if that's still there or not.
I don't know. It's been years since I played there.
But I do remember Bottom Line. I don't think I ever played there, but I know where you're talking.
It was there for a while. It had the basement stage and then like the upstairs stage.
Yes. Yes.
And the upstairs was more like acoustic acts and stuff like that, and then the basement was more of like the let's get loud area.
We have had a pretty awesome Chicago area band. Action Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes,
great.
Absolutely. Those guys are awesome.
Super fun.
Yeah, super cool dudes. They came this way in December, and I missed out on them because I was away.
Right.
But we've had them on the show, and
that's awesome.
They love the area.
I missed out on them because I'm lame right now. And
well, it was December. It was December is like, hey, maybe we can.
It was right before I went away.
Or not, but and then also like if you're in the hip hop thing, we had Luna Gray.
Luna Gray, yeah.
Oh, I think if I'm not mistaken, I've played one of her songs on the Top 40 station I work for.
Probably. She's a rapper.
Yeah.
Like
rap. I know there was a song that we played that she was involved in. Because most of the songs on Top 40, it's like 3 or 4 different artists are on a song.
Yeah.
And I can't think of the song.
That leads me to a question for you.
Yeah.
I was at the NAMM show a couple of years ago, and I had an opportunity to talk to DJ Ashba, a guitar player for Axl Rose for a while, 6 a.m. for a while. But I got to talk to him after he was showcasing some kind of recording software because he's a studio musician, session guy, recording musician. And he was talking about what he was like super jazzed about talking about was how he felt like rock music. And when I say rock music, I mean pretty much anything with loud guitars. I have a weird time with genre naming where I'm kind of like, but this has a little bit of this and this has a little bit of this. And if you scream, suddenly you're this. And if you have melody, suddenly you're this. So that always kind of like trips me up on what to say of what something is. But he was saying that the genre of rock in general, someone had asked him if he thought rock was dead. And he said, no, first off, like rock and punk and metal and hardcore and all those things are just underground, which is in his opinion, and I tend to agree with, is like kind of where they should be, because that's what leads them to keep pushing to make something new. whereas once you're successful, you're pushed to recreate success. But he said that the main reason that he thought that rock kind of fell behind all these other genres is because if you look at all these other genres, they're all working together. Everybody's got everybody on their record. Everybody's writing with everyone else. Everybody's pushing everybody else's album. And there's a very community type thing with it. Now, that's always been a thing in the punk genre. But unfortunately, it seems like when it comes to like rock and harder music, it's only in the punk genre. Whereas everything else kind of feels like, hey, look at me, don't look at them. Do you think that we're headed to something a little bit better now that more people are showing up on other people's records and are working together and things like that? And because it's underground and they're able to do it because we're not having major labels involved, do you think that's going to help rock and pop punk and everything kind of get to a higher level? Or do you think that it's just kind of like going to remain underground and we're going to get great stuff, but it's going to remain underground?
I mean, we've kind of seen a little bit of the resurgence, with artists like Machine Gun Kelly.
Right.
And, you could argue about that all day long on whether that's pop punk or not or whatever, but it's got guitars,
Yeah.
And there's actually, believe it or not, you could turn on a top 40 station right now anywhere in the country and listen to it for about a half an hour, and you will hear a lot of guitars in songs. People just aren't they're looking for specific things, but there's actually a lot of guitars used, whether it's acoustic or it's electric, or whether that electric is clean or it's got some dirty to it. It is used. You just sometimes you have to listen for it more than other times. But I think, I mean, it was crazy to see like when We Were Young Fest was announced.
Yeah.
I mean, there were mainstream magazines covering the announcement of that. Like I saw Variety covering it, and what was it, Hollywood Reporter, and like these big magazines that you never see talk about, you know, the genre were talking about this. And I think that kind of said something too. But there's obviously other artists besides Machine Gun Kelly that are even newer than him that are kind of bringing that into the mainstream again.
Do you think we have bands that are going to bring it into the mainstream, or do you think it's going to be an artist that shows an influence that's going to bring it into the mainstream?
No, I think there will be some bands. I think one of the bands that is kind of setting themselves up is probably like Meet Me at the Altar.
Okay.
I think they're kind of setting themselves up for that, especially with the label that they're signed to, Fueled by Ramen. I think they've got a good,
Well, they definitely have a good record. Yeah.
Yeah, I with their following and their fan base, I think there's a good chance that they will make it into that mainstream world. I'm trying to think of other ones as of recently, but I definitely think things come and go.
A band that I'm like super surprised hasn't done that is Juliana Theory.
Okay. Well, they've been around a while.
They've been around a long time.
They've been around a long time.
Like
but
they're not going to be ever seen as
just like
cutting edge because they've got history. You're not allowed to be. You're not allowed to cut edge if you've been around for 10 years or more.
I mean, you can, but it's harder.
Well,
I mean,
you can do it, but whether you're
it's been a while.
Whether you're credited with it, it's going to be a whole different thing.
Right.
Everybody wants newer, younger, faster.
Yeah, and it's that whole argument of, when going back to Machine Gun Kelly, when that his Tickets to My Downfall, when that was released and it was getting played on mainstream radio stations and things like that, people kept saying, "Oh, this isn't pop punk," blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. Well, a genre, as you kind of said earlier, it's always changing.
Yeah.
So what is considered pop punk now is not going to sound, and obviously that goes for any genre, but things, they just evolve. They're constantly going to change, so it's never going to be exactly what it was. So I definitely think it will make and I think it kind of is to a certain degree at this point. And considering how things like We Were Young Fest and things like that are happening, I think that is just going to push it even further back into the mainstream in some form or another. And depending on, and it's hard to say who's going to be a part of it. I mean, even, I know All Time Low has been a dirty band to say lately just because of accusations getting brought up again. But they're another band. Of course, they're not brand new, but they had that top 40 hit in the last year or two, and they had Demi Lovato and Black Bear attached to it. So, I mean,
well, that's why I was bringing in the idea of like, finally, you've got artists that are in the rock to encompass everything genre that are bringing in people from other genres to work with and creating a thing. And a lot of fans will kind of shit all over that and be like, oh, you're selling out. And it's like, are we selling out, or are we advancing the
evolving?
The art? I think I think a person that says, I just feel like, I don't know, the whole sellout thing is, I think that just needs to go away.
Yeah, it's silly to begin with. Yeah.
We spoke about that recently.
Yeah.
So.
And going back to what you were saying earlier with other genres working together, I tell you, two genres that work really well together, and they've been doing it for years, is pop and country. They are constantly working together, and you see these relationships grow, and you see them crossing their formats all the time. I can't tell you how many times a song comes up on the top 40 station that I work on, and I don't work on the country station that the company I work for owns. I don't work on that station anymore, but there's a lot of times where we're playing the same songs because you've got, let's say, there's a song called "Drunk." I'm drunk and I don't want to go home. It's Miranda Lambert and Elle King.
Okay.
Miranda Lambert is the country star. Elle King is the pop star.
Yeah.
So they come together. They end up having crossover hits. It ends up crossing over onto the country chart, but also crosses over on the pop chart. So it's kind of cool. And that's probably what helped All Time Low get back onto mainstream radio a little bit, is with working with Black Bear and working with Demi Lovato. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, for fans of rock, if you listen to all those songs too, you listen to the guitar tones, you listen to the drum tone, you listen to the mix, man, it's just a different style singer. It's a different style singer that's happening over the same. Yeah, songs are songs. Great songs are great songs. And you had country and pop mixing in the 80s, in my opinion, to make like glam rock. It was like storytelling songs mixed with this pop sheen, and then you threw in a dash of metal to kind of make it what it is. But if you take away the visual of all that and you just listen to the songs, there's a lot of the similarities there.
Yeah.
A lot of modern country to me sounds a lot like Bon Jovi songs. And a lot
sometimes, yes. Or you listen to them. I remember when I went in 2014 when I started working on country radio, and I hadn't listened to country since I was a kid. So obviously the genre had evolved quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And some of the songs I'm listening to, I'm like, this sounds like it should be on like an active rock station.
Right.
You know, like listening to there's a country band called Parma Lee. And a lot of their songs I would listen to. I'm like, this sounds like it should be played along with Nickelback and things like that. But somehow it's country. Like it's so
throw
weird.
a southern drawl on the singer,
Yeah,
and
right.
You lean a little bit more into the small town story of the song and the lyrics, and all of a sudden it's a country song.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Just like how Taylor Swift, she was the crossover queen between country and pop radio. All you had to do, and all you have to do, and it's just earlier with the song I mentioned, "Drunken I Want to Go Home." All you have to do is add like some type of banjo or something in the background, and that's your country element, and that's all you need. and then you can play it on country radio.
Loosen up that snare, and you've got a country song.
Yeah. That's all we got.
Oh man. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we have definitely taken up
lots of your time.
I hope I wasn't too winded either. So
no, you were adequately winded.
Oh, okay. Adequate. That's better than too much, I guess.
Yeah, you were perfectly winded.
Okay.
Perfect amount of wind coming from you. So as we kind of wind this down and close this up in anticipation of our visit to your show, which is going to be exciting, please let our listeners one more time just know where they can find you, where they can find your show, where they can find everything Pop Punk Pizza, everything, whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing, because it's in flux. It's always in flux.
Lots of stuff.
So
yes,
please let everybody know and all your socials and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Mike, Jimmy, thank you guys so much for letting me be on your podcast, and I'm super excited to welcome Bacon Is My Podcast onto Pop Punk and Pizza here soon. So yeah, our socials is all at Pop Punk Pizza Pod. Our website is Pop Punk and Pizza Podcast. There you can find all the different links to all the podcast platforms if you wish to do that. We do have a YouTube channel as well. You can find, not all of our episodes are up there, but there's quite a few more recent episodes, I guess you would say, that are up in video format for the podcast. So yeah, that's pretty much, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms. So I truly appreciate both you, both Mike and Jimmy. Thank you to both of you for having me on.
Oh no! That was, by the way, that was me. That was all me. I had you on. Jimmy totally opposed to having you on.
And I should give a shout out to Arlene of WTF in general, publicity.
Yes. Like when you sign a contract with them, they say don't talk about them.
Right.
We shout them out all the time,
but we still shout them.
We shout them out because we like. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome,
I try to,
and we love them, guys.
I mean, obviously, I don't have a contract with them, but I work with them. And the artists that they have on their roster, and I like to shout out publicists that I work with all the time, just because I feel like they deserve it.
It's super important, and peek behind the curtain. We don't just work with them. In terms of like when we book shows, we don't just work with them.
Right.
Shh.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Right.
But
yes. Well, I will say, I think you guys made a great choice. So
yes, yeah, they've been
having
really
you
great
as a guest.
With us.
I agree.
They brought you in, and we've been brought in, and yeah. Without further ado. The end of our show. How do we end every show?
We end every show with just reminding everybody the one question to ask yourself every day: what's that thing that makes your life better? What's that thing that adds to every day, to everything that you do? Jacques, do you know the question that we ask? Do you remember?
What's your bacon? Or what's my bacon?
What's your bacon?
No, you had it right the first time.
Yeah, you totally
always go with your first instinct.
Always go with your gut.
Go ahead.
Go where the spirit takes you.
What'd you say?
What's your bacon?
What's your bacon?
Yeah.
Hey
guys,
you can go here.
Thanks, guys.
You're fine. You can sit straight up. You don't even have to do that.
I have to do this.
You don't even have to do that.
This is
you're such a baby.
Hey guys. Thanks for watching. Jim, where can they find you?
They can
not
find
hunched
me
over like this.
They can find me in full frame. Yeah, you don't like where I put the camera. Full frame. If you're watching on Strangerhood TV, you can find me at Jimmy G Shoes on all the socials. You can find my band Craving Strange at cravingstrange.net. And from there, you can find us on all the socials as well. And, of course, baconismypodcast.com will let you see both of our bands, plus Bacon is My Passion music, plus Bacon is My Fashion. And you can help out the show by buying some T-shirts or a T-shirt or something from us and check it out. If you also want to support the show, thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/baconismypodcast. We have commercial-free episodes, extra episodes, cooking with shows, tasting shows, all that kind of stuff. Where can they find you, Shoulders McGee?
I feel like a Koopa Troopa.
It's not that bad.
But
if you're watching, you see that he's over-exaggerating a lot.
Me personally, you can find me at my own self, Mike, and then my band is Something Heavy at Something Heavy Music. But you can also check it on all of the other streaming things,
where you can also find Bacon.
Where you can also find Bacon is My Podcast and Bacon's My Passion.
Yeah, follow us.
I don't usually
let your shoulders down. You're totally
but
your neck is not that much bigger than your shoulders. Yeah, you're fine. Look at you. You're fine. You could sit back totally and you'd be fine. If you want to see how ridiculous and overreacting Mike is being right now, you can join us on Strangerhood TV, where you can find all of our What's Your Bacon and 7 questions with all of our guests, as well as every episode of Bacon is My Podcast, the visual version of. Wherever you happen to be listening to us, please, if you are able to, give us a review, give us that 5-star review, and please share us with everyone else. It does help. It very much helps. We appreciate it. And
also,
ask yourself every day one important question.
What's your bacon?
My shoulders are at a normal level. You're being weird.
You're being weird.
What's your bacon? You love your weekly dose of Bacon is My Podcast, but you need even more bacon. Well, just go over to baconismypodcast.com. You can engage even more with us over there. It's a pathway to our music, extra content, our social media pages. Most importantly, grab yourself some pretty sweet swag and put it all over your body parts. Again, that's baconismypodcast.com. Listen to some tunes, pick up some merch, and tell us, what's your bacon?